Keep coming back and coming back and coming back. Why are you here? You came back.
But do you think that in each life, ultimately good, couple of generations, couple of life cycles,
Well, those who practice Krishna consciousness, and it is said that not only Krishna consciousness, but any kind of transcendental yoga process, they make some advancement. That advancement is never lost, never diminishes. And after their incomplete practice in this life, they go to a higher region. And then again, they are born in a good family, and automatically they're attracted to continue where they left off. And then after many births, they attain perfection and go back home, back to God. Whatever you do materially, it ends at death. But whatever spiritual advancement you make is carried with you. Even small.
And yoga differences also, Prabhu. Sakti Yoga, lots of people are getting the perfection.
Yeah.
Like 80%, 90%. At this age
All
of
people,
Kali Yuga,
Satya Yoga, everyone practices.
everyone they will get. But then this Kali Yuga is very.
Yeah. This is the degraded age.
But again, this is supposed to again one cycle, right? Again, Brahma Loka, after that, again it goes through one more cycle again. And you again go in that cycle.
Say that again?
Yeah, the Satya Yoga, Treta Yoga, Kali Yoga, all this. Go in a cycle.
It goes in a cycle, yeah. Just like the seasons.
The year of Brahma, one year of Brahma, right? And again, you come back to the same cycle again once again.
Yeah. So text 9 begins to describe how one can think of Krishna. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature. The purport. The process of thinking of the Supreme is mentioned in this verse. The foremost point is that he is not impersonal or void. One cannot meditate on something impersonal or void. That is very difficult. The process of thinking of Krishna, however, is very easy and is factually stated herein. First of all, the Lord is Purusha, a person. We think of the person Ram and the person Krishna. And whether one thinks of Ram or of Krishna, what he is like is described in this verse of BhagavadGita. The Lord is Kavi, that is, he knows past, present, and future, and therefore knows everything. He is the oldest personality because he is the origin of everything. Everything is born out of him. He is also the supreme controller of the universe, and he is the maintainer and instructor of humanity. He is smaller than the smallest. The living entity is 1/10,000th part of the tip of a hair. But the Lord is so inconceivably small that he enters into the heart of this particle. Therefore, he is called smaller than the smallest. As the Supreme, he can enter into the atom and into the heart of the smallest and control him as the Supersoul. Although so small, he is still all-pervading and is maintaining everything. By him, all these planetary systems are sustained. We often wonder how these big planets are floating in the air. It is stated here that the Supreme Lord, by his inconceivable energy, is sustaining all these big planets and systems of galaxies. The word achintya, inconceivable, is very significant in this connection. God's energy is beyond our conception, beyond our thinking jurisdiction, and is therefore called inconceivable, achintya. Who can argue this point? He pervades this material world and yet is beyond it. We cannot comprehend even this material world, which is insignificant compared to the spiritual world. So how can we comprehend what is beyond? Achintya means that which is beyond this material world, that which our argument, logic, and philosophical speculation cannot touch. That which is inconceivable. Therefore, intelligent persons, avoiding useless argument and speculation, should accept what is stated in scriptures like the Vedas, BhagavadGita, and Bhagavatam, and follow the principles they set down. This will lead one to understanding. Text 10, one who at the time of death fixes his life hair between the eyebrows, and by the strength of yoga with an undeviating mind engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion, will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. In this verse, it is clearly stated that at the time of death, the mind must be fixed in devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For those practiced in yoga, it is recommended that they raise the life force between the eyebrows to the Ajna Chakra. The practice of Shat Chakra Yoga involving meditation on these 6 chakras is suggested here. A pure devotee does not practice such yoga, but because he is always engaged in Krishna consciousness, at death he can remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his grace. This is explained in verse 14. The particular use of the word yoga balena is significant in this verse because without practice of yoga, whether Shat Chakra Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, one cannot come to the transcendental state of being at the time of death. One cannot suddenly remember the Supreme Lord at death. One must have practiced some yoga system, especially the system of Bhakti Yoga. Since one's mind at death is very disturbed, one should practice transcendence through yoga during one's life. So this verse and the next 3 verses describe how in previous ages, the accomplished yogi can fix his mind on Krishna at the time of death. And in verse 14, we'll see that Krishna says that aside from this, the pure devotees without the practice of yoga can attain the same result. 11. Persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkara, and who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. Purport. Lord Krishna has recommended to Arjuna the practice of Chakra Yoga, in which one places the air of life between the eyebrows. Taking it for granted that Arjuna might not know how to practice Chakra Yoga, the Lord explains the process in the following verses. The Lord says that Brahman, although one without a second, has various manifestations and features, especially for the impersonalist, the Akshara or Omkara, the syllable Om is identical with Brahman. Krishna here explains the impersonal Brahman into which the renounced order of sages enter. In the Vedic system of knowledge, students from the very beginning are taught to vibrate Om and learn of the ultimate impersonal Brahman by living with the spiritual master in complete celibacy. In this way, they realize two of Brahman's features. This practice is very essential for the student's advancement in spiritual life, but at the moment, such brahmachari life is not at all possible. The social construction of the world has changed so much that there is no possibility of one's practicing celibacy from the beginning of student life. Throughout the world, there are many institutions for different departments of knowledge, but there is no recognized institution where students can be educated in the brahmachari principle. Unless one practices celibacy, advancement in spiritual life is very difficult. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya has announced, according to the scriptural injunctions for this age of Kali, that in this age, no process of realizing the Supreme is possible except the chanting of the holy names of Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. 12. The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga. Purport. To practice yoga as suggested here, one first has to close the doors of all sense enjoyment. This practice is called pratyahara, or withdrawing the senses from the sense objects. The sense organs for acquiring knowledge, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and touch, should be fully controlled and should not be allowed to engage in self-gratification. In this way, the mind focuses on the super soul in the heart, and the life air is raised to the top of the head. In the 6th chapter, this process is described in detail. But as mentioned before, this practice is not practical in this age. The best process is Krishna consciousness. If one is always able to fix his mind on Krishna in devotional service, it is very easy for him to remain in an undisturbed transcendental trance or in samadhi. 13. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planet. Therefore, it is clearly stated here that Om, Brahman, and Lord Krishna are not different. The impersonal sound of Krishna is Om, but the sound Hare Krishna contains Om. The chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is clearly recommended for the age. So if one quits his body at the end of life chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare, he certainly reaches one of these spiritual planets according to the mode of its practice. The devotees of Krishna enter the Krishna planet, Goloka Vrindavan. For the personalist, there are also innumerable other planets known as Vaikuntha planets in the spiritual sky, whereas the impersonalists remain in the Brahmajyoti. Text 14. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. Purport: this verse especially describes the final destination attained by the unalloyed devotees who serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Bhakti Yoga. Previous verses have mentioned 4 different kinds of devotees: the distressed, the inquisitive, those who seek material gain, and the speculative philosophers. Different processes of liberation have also been described: karma yoga, jnana yoga, and hatha yoga. The principles of these yoga systems have some bhakti added, but this verse particularly mentions pure bhakti yoga without any mixture of jnana, karma, or hatha. As indicated by the word ananya cheta, in pure bhakti yoga, the devotee desires nothing but Krishna. A pure devotee does not desire promotion to heavenly planets, nor does he seek oneness with the Brahmajyoti, or salvation or liberation from material entanglement. A pure devotee does not desire anything. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the pure devotee is called Nishkam, which means he has no desire for self-interest. Perfect peace belongs to him alone, not to them who strive for personal gain. Whereas a jnana yogi, karma yogi, or hatha yogi has his own selfish interests, a perfect devotee has no desire other than to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the Lord says that for anyone who is unflinchingly devoted to him, he is easy to attain. A pure devotee always engages in devotional service to Krishna in one of his various personal features. Krishna has various plenary expansions and incarnations, such as Ram and Nrsimha, and the devotee can choose to fix his mind in loving service to any of these transcendental forms of the Supreme Lord. Such a devotee meets with none of the problems that plague the practitioners of other yogas. Bhakti yoga is very simple and pure and easy to perform. One can begin simply by chanting Hare Krishna. The Lord is merciful to all, but as we have already explained, he is especially inclined towards those who always serve him without deviation. The Lord helps such devotees in various ways. As stated in BhagavadGita, Didami Priyogam Tam. The Lord gives such a devotee sufficient intelligence so that ultimately the devotee can attain him in his spiritual kingdom. The special qualification of the pure devotee is that he is always thinking of Krishna without deviation and without considering the time or place. There should be no impediments. He should be able to carry out his service anywhere and at any time. Some say that the devotee should remain in holy places like Vrindavan or some holy town where the Lord lived. But a pure devotee can live anywhere and create the atmosphere of Vrindavan by his devotional service. It was Sri Advaita who told Lord Chaitanya, "Wherever you are, O Lord, there is Vrindavan." We read that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Remember what the circumstance of that statement was? What is the story where this came in?
Nityananda Prabhu told everybody to misdirect Lord Chaitanya towards Advaita Acharya's home. instead of sending him to Vrindavan, he wanted to go to Vrindavan.
Yes,
He was
they
detoured.
tricked Lord Chaitanya to going to the Ganga, saying that here is the Yamuna, because they wanted to take him to Advaita Acharya's house. So, Lord Chaitanya said, you told me this is Vrindavan, but it's not. And then Advaita Acharya said, wherever you are, O Lord, there is Vrindavan. As indicated by the words Satatam and Nityasha, which mean always, regularly, or every day, a pure devotee constantly remembers Krishna and meditates upon him. These are qualifications of the pure devotee for whom the Lord is most easily attainable. Bhakti Yoga is the system that the Gita recommends above all others. Generally, the Bhakti Yogis are engaged in 5 different ways. 1, Shanta Bhakta, engaged in devotional service and neutrality. Dasya Bhakta, engaged in devotional service as servant. Sakya Bhakta, engaged as friend. Vatsalya Bhakta, engaged as parent. And Madhurya Bhakta, engaged as conjugal lover of the Supreme Lord. In any of these ways, the pure devotee is always constantly engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord and cannot forget the Supreme Lord. And so for him, the Lord is easily attained. A pure devotee cannot forget the Supreme Lord for a moment. And similarly, the Supreme Lord cannot forget his pure devotee for a moment. This is the great blessing of the Krishna conscious process of chanting the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
I have a question. In Bhakti Yoga, the first example was Santa Bhakta, engaged in devotional service in neutrality. What does that mean, in neutrality?
Neutrality means just appreciating the greatness of Krishna or God without active service.
Without active service?
Yes.
All in the mind?
Well, one just might meditate on God is great in so many ways.
Okay.
I mean, as a practical example, that someone might admire some person in this world, just simply admire and always think about that person, talk about that person. It's like in India, there are many people that admire Amitabh Bachchan, for example, film actor, and whatever. So they might have a picture of him, they might talk about him, they might look at his movies and read about him in the newspaper. That is just neutral, means a passive relationship, not an active relationship of service or friendship or parental or conjugal.
For me, I need help because to understand it, it sounds kind of impersonal.
Well, no. We just like the same example, people who admire President Obama or anyone, they always consider him as a person, but they have no actual relationship.
Yeah, there's no relationship.
Who do they give as an example for Santa in the Nectar of Devotion?
Santas.
I can remember the other 4, but not this one. They give an example. Do you know something?
I don't remember.
Wait, Dotara.
Maybe the 4 Kumaras, but I don't remember. So I will stop there as far as the verses, although we can discuss more.
Can we interpret that as something without expectation of anything? Without expecting anything in return? When you say neutrality, I don't expect anything. It's a selfless devotion.
Yeah, it's not possible in material life. The closest example in material life where one serves or loves without expectation of return is the mother's love for a small child. Mother has a small child. She does everything for the child, doesn't expect anything in return from the child. Bakery doesn't give any payment.
So that what then how does that distribution?
That's Vatsalya. That's Vatsalya. And I was going to go and get the nectar of devotion and see what the example. But that's Vatsalya, parental. That's what you're saying. That's number 4. You go and get the nectar of devotion.
I'm just thinking about all the time Krishna says, think about me, remember me. But at the same time, which form we kept our mind, how remember, how can we remember? Because varieties of poster, varieties of feature, they came out and they are just imaging. Oh, I'm just, thinking sometimes. Mention is there, Tribhanga Lalitam, flute playing, but the black is, all these things is there. But same time they make lots of picture. And
Did we have in class this morning, or was it somewhere else? But I'm recalling, I thought it was today, that something we were reading said, fix your mind on whatever form of Krishna you wish.
well,
I'm trying to think. I just remembered. But I
because
don't
here
remember.
saying just engage 3 things. Why we chant say Hare Krishna Mahamudra, air, tongue, and mind.
Of course, we think of Krishna, especially by worshiping the deity in the temple. Otherwise, we think of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna.
But yeah, we are drawing and trying to remember Krishna while we are doing seva. Like Radha Madhava is here, like white complex. Some were black. Some places little bit reddish. Different types of complex. We are changing temple, this temple, that temple, and there is different system. There is a different system and different feature. Very hard to remembering. Remembering is the main thing. But remembering means just we are not saying remembering is not word. I mean, this is the not goal. Goal is remembering the things. Unto me, Krishna said, that means we have to make feature or whatever. That thing we have to think all the time. That is. If nothing is come out like the thinking or remembering, how is possible?
Well, basically, it is saying we have to remember Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna. And when you're chanting of Hare Krishna becomes pure, then the form of Krishna is revealed. In the meantime, chant Hare Krishna.
Because you can be doing so many different things, can be cooking, food, when we study, but at the same time when you're chanting the name, it doesn't really need to have an image of the Lord or anything. Could be doing innumerable activities, be stitching some clothes or whatever it is. But the moment you're chanting it, so that automatically praying. Because here, when you're in this process, what you're saying is when you want to think of someone as an image there, your mind is free. But in 90% of the cases, you're busy doing something. In this process, you just chant the name. That's it.
At the same time, chanting time also we can remember, no? Without remembering, without engaging, without focusing, is useless. Chanting and thinking another thing, the mind is run away here and there.
No, it doesn't happen. Once you keep chanting non-stop, at some point you will start realizing that. Initially, mind will run away. That's how you, like when you take a small kid, when you teach him some stuff, he keeps on repeating. Do you think that every time when he says A, do you think he's remembering A the first time? No. After some 100 times, finally he realizes, oh, okay, this is A.
Yeah, that is true.
So same way, I feel this is also true that you really don't recognize it. You can start recognizing.
Did you find that? Could you find that?
No, should I give this to you? Maybe you can find it. I looked for several. I know that it's in here somewhere. I thought it was in the beginning. It's even the introduction of the first chapter. It could be the one. Must be the one.
Anyway, I won't be able to find it. So,
Is there an index in the back?
I'm sorry?
Is there an index in the back?
Yes, I checked. That's what took me long. I went to the index. It's not on the sample, it's in the neutrality. What about 15 or 16 references, but not exactly that I could see.
oh, here it is. In the index, Kumaras as examples of Shankaras,
Oh.
page 287.
That's not even making good.
Not near the beginning.
Krishna's humor.
I went through the pages before and after. I won't ever forget that.
See? There was a blessing in Krishna's humor.
We didn't read that in our Nectar Devotion class.
I
This
had
is
read
a chapter called Neutral Love of God, chapter 35. The best example of saintly persons situated in the Shanta Rasa are Sanaka, Sanatana, Sananda, and Sanat Kumara, the Kumara brothers. There may be another description
What page is that?
earlier.
What page is that?
287,
Thanks.
chapter 35.
What about the Navayogamra? What about the Navayogamra?
Navayogamra? What rasa are they?
Yeah. Because they are also top-notch devotee. Maybe same as Kumaras.
Maybe.
So it sounds a little like the phrase "Thy will be done." Whenever you want, instead of asking, "This is what I want."
But Kumaras is the example there. There is no mention about the Kumaras. We know Kumara, but what they perform like the neutral things.
Well, maybe it's there.
And we know name, but what they did? Santa, what is the characteristic of the Santaras?
We have to read that chapter.
Oh.
But his question about how you can love without expecting something in return or selflessly, that is described in the last prayer of Lord Chaitanya Shikshashtaka. And Prabhupada sometimes talks about this, that the pure devotee or fully surrendered devotee, Lord Chaitanya prayed, "My Lord, you may embrace me or you may trample me underfoot, but in all cases you are my Lord unconditionally." So such a surrendered devotee, even if it appears that Krishna is neglecting him or putting him into a very difficult position, he doesn't give up his loving devotion to the Lord. That's possible only in purified existence. Love is only love for Krishna. All other so-called love is just a kind of lust. Okay. I kept 2 books right next to your office on the table that I had taken before that Gurujana book. And then there was that book that was in the Prasad room, the BhagavadGita of Srinath's Swami. I kept them just next to it. And I have your,
Oh, thank you very much.
I'll keep it here. I have a question. Here and in other places, Prabhupada mentions that the Paramatma enters within the heart of the soul, within the soul, which is 1/10,000th the tip of the hair. Paramatma is smaller than the smallest, enters the soul. But in other places, the Upanishads body is compared to a tree, and the soul and super soul are compared to 2 birds sitting on a tree.
Same thing. But there is no mention about the bird size. That means size is mentioned there.
No, but one image is side by side, 2 birds side by side. The other image is on the inside. Anyway, achintya. Achintya ye kalu bhava. What's that? That tongue start in karija. For something that's inconceivable, there's no use thinking about it. What's the use?
Somewhere like writing is a bade jayate tattva. Bade jayate tattva. If we are discussing each other, then we will get the tattva, that means truth.
Let's hope so.
Do more extra round of japa instead.
I have a question that has lady that comes here every Sunday and Thursday, Radhika.
Mhm.
She has two sons because Lakshmi is friends with her. She has two sons. Have you ever seen them?
I've never come here. They moved here because the sons were here.
So they are in Phoenix.
One was studying and then somebody was working.